Welcome to today's edition of the Anaglyph Jukebox. You never know what you'll find on the old jukebox. Let's press B31. Okay, we've got Captain Marvel in 3D. The only thing stronger than a comic book superhero is a lawsuit, even if he is the world's mightiest mortal. Copyright. Specifically, National Comics Publications, Inc. versus Fawcett Publications, Inc., et al., U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, argued May 4th, 1951, decided August 30th, 1951. It was Superman versus his rival in Whiz Comics, Captain Marvel. Created in 1939 by artist C.C. Beck and writer Bill Parker, by the end of World War II, Marvel and his family of associated titles were outselling Superman. If Captain Marvel's face, as drawn by C.C. Beck, looks vaguely familiar, it's because he was modeled on film star Fred MacMurray. There was no stopping the big red cheese, as his nemesis, Dr. Sivana, called him in a memorable story by comics writer legend Otto Binder. Captain Marvel even made it to Hollywood first in a Republic Pictures serial, Adventures of Captain Marvel. Incidentally, Captain Marvel was also the first comic book superhero to fly, back when Superman was merely leaping tall buildings with a single bound. He was the first hero to have a boy sidekick, Captain Marvel Jr., a bald-headed villain before Lex Luthor, and the first female sidekick in Captain Marvel's Mary Marvel, the twin sister of Billy Batson, the boy alter ego of the grown-up superhero. All of these iterations were copied by DC for their own Superman stories. Clearly, there was cross-fertilization going on in this new publishing field. A rock and roll sidebar. Naturally blonde Elvis Presley dyed his hair black and in his Vegas years adopted the spit curl and half-caped outfit of Captain Marvel Jr. It was his favorite comic book as a kid back in Tupelo, Mississippi. Elvis had been dyeing his hair since he was a teenager. At first he used shoe polish as a cheap alternative to hair dye. Later in his life, Elvis opted for a signature mix of hair dyes, Miss Clairol 51D and Black Velvet Mink Brown by Paramount. A single photo of Elvis as a blonde hangs in Graceland today. The most famous lawsuit in comics began in June 1941 and ended a decade later, with Fawcett paying $400,000 in damages, $4.3 million in today's money, to National, better known now as DC Comics. Fawcett Publications canceled all of its superhero comics, the staff was laid off, the publishing division shut down, and it left the comic book field entirely. The suit, quote, found that in publishing the exploits of Captain Marvel in Whiz Comics and its other magazines, Fawcett copied from strips, a strip consists of a series of pictures carrying legends, which had appeared in Action Comics and had done so with a degree of detail which in Detective Comics vs. Brune's publication we found to infringe earlier copyrights of Superman by another plagiarist. The evidence does much more than show that this finding was not clearly erroneous. It leaves no possible doubt that the copying was deliberate. Indeed, it takes scarcely more than a glance at the corresponding strips of Superman and Captain Marvel to assure the observer that the plagiarism was deliberate and unabashed. So why is the current Captain Marvel a female superhero published by Marvel Comics, and why has DC been publishing the original Captain Marvel as a character now called Shazam, and who the heck is Ms. Marvel? Ms. Marvel was originally a female counterpart to Marvel Comics' Captain Marvel, created in 1968, first as Carol Danvers, a non-superpowered U.S. Air Force officer. Her current incarnation since 2013 is Kamala Khan, a 16-year-old Pakistani-American from Jersey City, New Jersey. Clear? In 1967, Marvel trademarked the name Captain Marvel for a new character in Marvel Superheroes issue number 12, created by Stan Lee and one of the Jukebox's favorite comic book artists, Gene Colan. This Captain Marvel was a member of an alien race, the Kree, and was originally sent to Earth as a spy, before he became a defender of our planet. In 1972, DC licensed the rights to all of Fawcett's old characters. However, this required renaming the Big Red Cheese, so they called him Shazam. There was a per-use fee for Fawcett's character, so this limited their use due to the extra expense. In 1987, DC relaunched the original Captain Marvel in a miniseries, Shazam! The New Beginning, and in 1991 purchased the full rights. Finally, who or what is Shazam? It stands for Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, Mercury. And Billy Batson shouts this whenever he wants to transform into his adult counterpart, Captain Marvel. Or, legally today, Shazam, as he was called in the 2019 DC Extended Universe film. Shazam was released in the United States in Real D3D, Dolby Cinema, IMAX, 4DX, and Screen X formats. The jukebox doesn't even know what those last two terms mean.